Previously on All Things Unexplained.
I was genuinely nervous. And I think you could hear it in my commentary on that helicopter when you're talking about when that ground collision avoidance system was signaling that we had something, as close as 39, 40 feet below the helicopter when we were at 4,600 to 4,800 feet above the ground. I think they caught me saying, "What the hell is under us?" That's all very real. I was concerned. We were feeling there was a lot going on there in what you see. And we were feeling that vibration. Cameron talked about the buffeting, the vorticity, the rotation in the air. It was very much as if we were not up there alone. That's the kind of thing where when you're at nearly 5,000 feet above ground level, that starts to matter.
Hey, Unexplained ones, you can save 10% at paranormalitymag.com. Just use promo code BigfootUFO at checkout.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's.
Did the CIA write Wind of Change by the Scorpions?
As humans busied themselves about the various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied.
Dr. Loeb, what percentage chance do you give it that you have indeed uncovered extraterrestrial or non-human technology?
With infinite complacence, people went about their affairs, yet across an immense ethereal gulf, intellects vast and unsympathetic threw their plans against us.
Prior to your abduction, did you believe in UFOs or any sort of alien life form?
All things unexplained.
So some of that, I think, sir, we'll save for closed session.
We have special guests joining us tonight. We could not be more thankful to have Erik Bard and Thomas Winterton with us from The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch from the History Channel.
So I just wanted to close out the scientific investigation and research portion of this show by first a listener comment here, and it's a perfect segue to my question for you guys. And so I just got a kick out of this. Tom Akers says, I really hope this reminds me of the mean tweets segments you see online, by the way, sometimes. I really hope we get some kind of answers this season because I don't want this show to turn into that Oak Island show where it always is close, but nothing comes out of it.
I promise no coconut fiber.
So, I thought that was a perfect segue to close out the scientific part of this show with this question. Guys, what do you hope to achieve with the ongoing scientific investigation of Skinwalker Ranch?
I think we've kind of touched on this. What do we hope to achieve? It isn't just a craven desire for closure, right? It isn't just that we want to close up all these open questions. There are two deliverables here. Yes, there are the answers. And I mentioned, that my favorite kind of answer, as principal investigator, obviously, I would like to find the answer that unifies all these disparate, very different things that are happening. How do you reconcile that you've got so many different things happening on this one relatively small patch of land here at the low point of the Uinta Basin, right? Can we find a unifying explanation? So that's one deliverable. The other deliverable is the elevation of the discourse itself. And that is, look at how we have historically engaged these topics. There's been an awful lot of sensational stuff out there. I don't want to disparage anyone, but there are some people, myself included, who would look at the genre as being maybe a little unsavory because of the way it has been handled. And again, this is not at all to disparage the efforts of those who have been truly, sincere investigators. But there's been an awful lot of confirmation bias. There's been an awful lot of storytelling, frankly. And so one of the deliverables, one of the things I hope to have come out of the investigation is that we will have elevated the way we engage, elevate the discourse. I really hope that means something to you guys and to those who are listening.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And I have to say, like I said, I'm a big Albert Einstein fan, and he tried to have an equation or discover the equation to unify everything, all of physics, all of astrophysics. He ran into a little bit of trouble with quantum physics, but on this show, we've experienced a wide swath of paranormal situations. And it's interesting, we can detect that there is some sort of common thread. We can't put our finger on it, but it's there. So I applaud your search for that.
So we touched a little bit on, the interplay of science and beliefs as well. And I wanted to bring up something that I didn't really think of as I was watching the show until you had a Native American gentleman come on. And I believe he was from the Ute tribe. Is that accurate? And he really cautioned you guys about messing with the land and said some prayers and said, you guys should be the ones saying the prayers. You're the ones that are about to mess with this land. And when we posted that we were going to do this show with you, somebody had commented a not very nice comment about, how wrong it is to mess with Native American land, to tamper with this, to tamper with what might have happened before. And again, that wasn't something that I had thought of before this, but I figure since it came up, it's worth bringing up. How do you guys balance and approach the ethics of the investigation with potentially dangerous things and interfering with potentially spiritual things?
Well, I'll start by just kind of the public relations portion of the ranch lies there in the middle of the Ute tribe reservation. They're our neighbors, and we appreciate the many good things that they bring to the table. And I know that as we've done this investigation, the thing that I appreciate a lot about Erik and the science approaches that they've taken is that they're open-minded. They don't automatically dismiss anything. Erik is always saying, I'm not here to believe, I'm not here to disbelieve, I'm here to observe. And so we inherited this legend of the Skinwalker, this Native American culture that we're right in the middle of, and it's something that we do need to be sensitive of, and it's something that we've taken very seriously. One of the reasons why Brandon sent Jim Morse out before anybody is that Jim Morse has spent his entire lifetime serving the Native American communities. He's helped raise millions of dollars for their scholarships. He has great and very deep relationships within Native American tribes, multiple. And so Jim has done a great job of outreaching to the Native Americans in the area. And, it's interesting in the fact that, the legend of Skinwalker is that the tribe, the Ute tribe, provided scouts and assisted the U.S. soldiers in pushing out the Navajos from the area. And originally, where the ranch was Navajo hunting ground, and that the Navajo shaman cursed the ground because of that. And so, I know in conversations that I've been with Jim with Native Americans, there's been a pretty even split, even among the tribal members there, as to whether or not that's even real. We've had half of them that say, "Oh, that's ridiculous," and the other half, there's some that have told us that when they drive down the main road, to the east of the ranch, they will look towards the east, which is the opposite direction of the ranch. They refuse to even acknowledge it. So it's interesting to see that even within the tribe itself, there's a division in how to approach this. And so I think that all we can do, where they're not even united themselves in what's going on, we just have to be open-minded, and we always want to just be culturally sensitive. And we've reached out to them many, many times on many different issues to get their take and to get their opinion on what they think might be happening. And so we definitely view them as a wonderful asset to lean on in some of these instances where we're coming across some of these discoveries, like, for example, the petroglyphs that we found there on the ranch. That's something that we obviously lean into them and want to get their take. So,
our approach is one that absolutely embraces our Native American, our tribal neighbors and friends. We fully expect that we have a lot yet to learn from their tradition. I've said it from the outset. Well, there are two things I've said. I remember the first day of filming, I kind of threw a fit, and I said, "This is not just a science experiment." You probably remember that, Tom. I was kind of livid. I was concerned that we were going in that direction. I said, "This is not a science exercise to the exclusion of all else." And the other thing that I say is, I can never allow this investigation to become perceived as a proposition of my science versus your tradition. Never. I want nothing to do with that. And in fact, anything that I can learn from the tradition, from the Native American tradition, I consider to be very valuable. And in fact, I've committed quite some time to searching out and reading available material, and will probably read much more as opportunity presents.
Yes, and maybe we'll find out that our science and their tradition go hand in hand.
Love it. I love that.
We got season 4 of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch coming up. What do you guys see as the next steps for investigating the phenomenon at Skinwalker Ranch? We've got a giant metallic object in the mountain. We've got drones, military crafts flying over the property. What do you guys see as the next steps here?
I'll start with your introductory statement, and then I want to hear what Tom has to say, honestly. I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, you're not. You're doing great.
Okay. Well, again, this goes back to something I was saying earlier about, what do we really know? We know that we have retrieved metallic specimens from a portion of the mesa, right? We know that we have retrieved not just metal, but some material that incorporates some really interesting metals. And perhaps, according to some who've looked at this, we might be looking at a metamaterial of some kind, something that is perhaps made in I think it was described as being made in a blast furnace compared to materials used in the aerospace industry. We don't know what those are. But the fact is, we don't know at this point that we have a large metallic object in the mesa. What we know is that we've retrieved metal from our really what is a biopsy at this point, going into the base of the mesa, and we know that we have encountered something that was not permitting that directional drilling drill head to go upwards as intended, but was actually driving it down, and then eventually it was able to come upwards. So we've encountered something very hard, is what I read into that.
Yeah, and I mean, looking forward, I guess from where you guys are sitting right now with you, all is what you've seen on up to season 3. We have the benefit of having filmed season 4 last summer, and I'll just say, season 4 was a roller coaster unlike anything I've ever ridden before. I'm sitting here watching the teaser that you guys played at the beginning of this interview, and just watching that, I'm flooded with all kinds of emotions that I felt when we were in the process of filming. I have to say that I caught myself holding my breath through some of those imageries just because of the almost like a PTSD in a way. Yeah. I'm still trying to process the events that happened during season 4. I think now I haven't had the privilege of being able to see the episodes. We film all summer, and then it's always fun to see how the editors put it together and put the storyline together out of it. But I'm really excited to share knowing what we captured and not having seen the episodes, I'm not sure how it'll play out yet, but I'll tell you that season 4 was incredibly eye-opening, and like I say, I'm still processing. And you can imagine, based on the things you guys said, the metal that we pulled out of the mesa, the occurrences that have happened there at the Triangle in season 3. So you can only imagine that going into season 4. You can tell by the teaser where some of our focus is, and I just say it's going to be a incredible journey these next 14 weeks as these episodes air.
Imagine how we feel. You lived it. We have to wait to watch it on TV.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen.
The suspense. Yeah, the suspense.
Yeah. I'm right in line with you, Thomas. I got to say, for the first three seasons, I just refused to watch it. Unless I had my arm twisted behind my back, I wouldn't do it. And as CJ said, we've lived it. Well, my statement was, I lived it once, and once is enough. But I have taken the opportunity to look at some of the rough cut material for the purpose of providing a little bit of the scientific, and other feedback on what has been put together as prospective episodes, and it is jarring. Sometimes I find myself it's hard to believe that all of that happened, in last summer and early fall. It's just, what was your term, Tom? You said it was like PTSD. I think I can relate to that.
Yeah,
That's a great way to describe it. So, guys, this is a little sneak peek into a question I'm going to ask later. But are there any collaborations or partnerships? There are a lot of big name groups out there studying the paranormal, in particular UFOs and UAPs. We've got NASA, we've got AARO, AARO, we've got the Pentagon, we've got all kind of folks out there doing legitimate studies of paranormal activity, particularly UFOs and UAPs. Are there any collaborations or partnerships that you guys want to pursue or think that you should pursue for advancing the scientific understanding of the ranch?
I think, without being preemptive of things currently in motion, I would say to you, stay tuned.
Reason enough to watch. We were given access to the first episode of season 4, so we have seen it. So I'm not sure how much we're allowed to say or what is known, and we are live, so I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Just a little bit, I'd say.
But I'll let you go, Tim, because I don't want to be the one getting in trouble. You ask the questions.
Is there a season that seems to be more active for these paranormal activities than other seasons, or is it pretty much across the board?
You mean season of the year?
Yeah, like fall, summer, spring.
I know Thomas has a take on that.
Well, what happens, I think we agree that we haven't been able to put a pattern to it as far as any type of predictable cycle or predictability to it. But I have observed, and maybe there's various reasons for it, but it does seem like maybe there's an uptick during the January, February part. But I have to say, after filming season 4, I mean, like Erik said, we had so many things happen in those couple short months that it'd be hard for me to say that anything in January or February has surpassed what we captured in those couple months. So I don't know.
Your personal experiences and the things that I observed in the surveillance, before we began the public facing work, with the documentary, align really well. I saw a lot of things, during the winter months, right? This. We asked people who had lived. I've certainly asked people who have either lived on the ranch or in the area, what they thought about this very same question. And it was interesting because I would get diametrically opposed answers. I've had people tell me, oh, the month of June or July, and others have said exactly what you said, Thomas, February. The fact is, as Thomas mentioned, we're engaging, in a very different and very, I won't say aggressive, but proactive way when we're doing the documentary work. And I like to think that it's synergistic with the more light-handed observational work that we do through the balance of the year. So we're seeing aspects of the ranch, we're seeing aspects of the phenomenology come forward. When we engage with these sometimes very large scale and very ambitious and energetic experiments that we see in the episodes. But then I have to say, I enjoy as much or more seeing what happens on its own. Because think about it. The inherited narrative is not one in which individuals going back into the 1980s, 1990s, and so forth. It's not like they were conducting. There were deliberate attempts to push the buttons and pull the levers and turn the knobs and elicit some kind of response, as far as we know. These were things that happened on their own. And so those have historically been the kinds of events that I've been most focused on, in a more of an observational mode. And they are very interesting. We've caught a lot of stuff just by keeping the vigil.
All right, Tim, let's jump into some of those hot takes real quick.
All right, so hot takes, guys. So just I'm going to throw some things at you pretty quickly here. We had an astrophysicist on the show one time, and he said that he was asked if he discovered proof of alien life to let the president know first. He said, no, I will not do that. I will be revealing that to the public and to academia at large. So, Erik and Thomas, how do you balance the desire to share your findings with the public and academia with concerns about sensationalism or misinformation? That's not exactly a hot take, a little bit more of a longer question, but still.
Short and sweet. I think it depends on the circumstance. It depends on exactly what is observed.
Yeah, I think the information that you gather, we all have a desire to be very transparent and open with what we're seeing. But if there was an instance where what we were witnessing could have, say, national security implications, then we have a responsibility. We can't be putting people at risk or putting, our desire for transparency over the safety concerns of many. So like Erik said, it would depend on exactly what it was that we had.
Great, good answer. And I want to go over some listener comments and questions. I don't know who this group is, but they've been very active tonight on the show. Perhaps y'all have heard of them. The SWR Insiders are addicted to the show. They've been really active tonight.
Skinwalker Ranch. Come on.
I know. I assume that's the Skinwalker Ranch Insiders, but I don't know about the Skinwalker Ranch Insiders. But they're definitely here tonight, so I wanted to give them a shout out.
I just want to say, and I'm sure Erik does too, we freaking love our Skinwalker Ranch Insiders. And for those of you that don't know who they are like an extension of our team. They watch vigilantly on our live stream day and night. And they are a group of some of the coolest and smartest individuals that you'll find. So we absolutely love our insiders.
I just asked him the other day. I was like, do you think they have a live stream?
You.
I want to check it out. Yes, I'm joining.
Yes, we do. And I got to tell you, it has really yielded dividends, just exactly as I hoped it would. The first time I floated the idea to Brandon, goodness, it was 2017. I said, we've got to get this in front of more human observers. And I don't want to take too much time on this because I know this wasn't your question, but goodness, we've had people observing things. We're talking about single frame events, like a 30th of a second events that are actually quite interesting to us. And that's recently. We've had people notice things that are very subtle, very slow to develop, and it's remarkable how human beings have such a capacity for detecting very nuanced changes in the environment and things in that visible and audible data stream that we're sending out. And so that has been, exactly as hoped, a very valuable research tool. And I consider these our colleagues at large.
Brilliant. That was a brilliant plan. And I'm joining.
Okay, on with the question. Sorry, I had to acknowledge him.
Yes, absolutely.
No worry. I mean, we're getting blown up here by Skinwalker Ranch insiders. It's amazing. Listener Kimberly Boyd wants to know: have you videotaped actual skinwalkers?
I'll speak to that. I have not seen anything in our video record that corresponds to the traditional description of a skinwalker, which is like some sort of an upright humanoid, maybe part. I hope I don't say this wrong. Something like a human being that's also got animal qualities. I have not seen anything like that in the video record. There have been some animals show up that I didn't expect to see. An example, I didn't know that there were wolves out here. And I have in fact seen not just the coyote, but there have been a few instances of actual wolves.
Oh, cool. Have there been any alien abductions from the ranch that you know of? This comes from listener Kimberly S. Boyd.
Yeah, so the trespassers that come on the ranch that are never heard from again, we write all those off as
That makes sense, and it leads right into our next question. Are you guys afraid of alien abduction yourself?
I think it's true of both Thomas and myself that when we go out in the field, we are checking the horizon all the time. We're checking the skies above. We're looking over our shoulders. It isn't just the alien theme or meme or whatever you want to call it. It isn't just aliens that concern us. Although that is within the scope, I don't think it's specifically that would inspire fear in me.
Yeah, I'm more fearful of the human type abduction. We unfortunately, because of the spotlight that's been put on the ranch, we've been subject to threats or people that think that we're aliens and are going to come out and quote bag them an alien. I'm way more concerned about the human type than I am of anything extraterrestrial. So
it's unfortunate.
So I want to say thanks to all the listeners tonight, and thanks to Erik Bard and Thomas Winterton from the Secret Skinwalker Ranch for coming on with us tonight. Erik and Thomas, Robert Bigelow.
More specifically, did he take anything from the ranch or leave anything at the ranch? That's what I want to know.
Very mysterious, a secretive guy, in my opinion. I honestly don't think that I could say one way or another whether he did or didn't.
I can tell you from speaking with him that he takes this problem set very seriously.
All right, guys. What's your hot take on one Travis Taylor?
Oh, boy.
Awkward silence.
I'm waiting for Erik to go first, and I'll finish up.
What can I say? I'm thrilled that he's part of our team. I'm grateful to Travis for being a co-witness. He and I and Thomas and sometimes the entire group are seeing things together that without Travis there as a witness, I don't know that I would be as comfortable engaging what we've seen and heard and measured. So, of course, thrilled to have him on the team.
There's a perfect example of my views evolving 180 degrees. I thought he was a complete pompous, arrogant guy beginning, and he proved me to be the exact opposite. He's a wonderful human being. I consider him a very close friend. I have a lot of love and respect for Travis, and like Erik said, he brings a lot to the table for us as a team, and I can't imagine doing it without him.
Good answer. So I'm not going to give anything away, but there was some public knowledge events that happened between season 3 and season 4 with Travis Taylor. Hopefully it won't cause too much drama for season 4. Guys, what's your hot take on Brandon Fugel, current ranch owner?
I don't know if I want to touch this one. This is really complex.
Be careful.
No, Tim is just asking these questions in a very dramatic way, which is
right. There's only one Brandon Fugel.
Amen.
What's your take on your boss, Tim? No, I'm kidding.
That's next episode.
It's the next episode.
I will say real quick, I appreciate Brandon's desire for transparency. I mean, Brandon could have chose to take Bigelow's route and keep all this secret, keep it to himself.
Right.
And Brandon didn't come in this with the intent of a TV show. For 2 years, I fielded phone calls from producers because I was the only publicly associated name with the ranch when Brandon first bought it. I fielded dozens of calls from producers and networks wanting to do a show. I would pass the message on to Brandon, and he would always respond with 2 words: not interested, not interested. And even the show today, that is a result of an individual, and I'll give him full credit. TJ Allard called me like clockwork every month. The guy was tenacious. He was persistent. He was a gentleman and very professional. And it was through his persistence that he finally got an audience with Brandon after almost a year. So Brandon didn't jump into this and say, oh, I want to be famous, I want a TV show. He was basically drugged to the party. But I appreciate Brandon's willingness to be transparent. And I appreciate his curiosity and his really putting his personal dollars towards trying to get answers for that benefit us all. So
Brandon seems to have, based on our research, a sense of humor, perhaps a hidden sense of humor. We noticed he purchased Skinwalker Ranch with a holding company by the name of Adamantium Holdings.
Yeah.
And mantium being the strongest metal in the universe, according to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that is.
Well, look, I realize it's a closely guarded secret, but Brandon is actually quite a fan of pop culture.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's only one Brandon Fugel.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
Great. All right, guys, just a couple more here. Not too far from Skinwalker Ranch sits Roswell, New Mexico. What's your hot take on Roswell?
Goodness, I have no idea. That's out of my field of view at this point. Who knows? Maybe it'll come into scope. But as it stands, I don't think I should say anything about Roswell.
Yeah, I know this is horrible because of the space that I'm in, but I know so little about it that I'm very uninformed. I couldn't make an intelligent comment about it.
Well, I feel like we should all meet up at Skinwalker Ranch sometime and take a little road trip down to Roswell. And while we're at it, guys, I would love your hot take on another popular road trip attraction not too far from Skinwalker Ranch, Area 51.
Oh boy. I like the idea of not locking horns with the folks behind the signs that say no trespassing, and use of lethal force has been authorized. So I don't know what you mean by a trip to Area 51.
Yeah.
I mean, that ridge like 10 miles outside the property.
Sure. Look, the curiosity is always there, but this is one of the things I often say. Curiosity alone is not an entitlement to answers, and so I say that on my own behalf. I'm not speaking for anyone else, but my curiosity alone does not entitle me to answers. Certainly, I'm interested in what happens there, but I recognize the need for, perhaps the protection of things in the interest of national security there.
Well, and I'll just also throw out a little fact that probably not very many people know, and I feel comfortable sharing this because I've heard him share this publicly. But our own Jim Morse has been inside Area 51 with Representative Jake Garn. So Jim has been not just to it, but into.
Wait a minute.
So
That's amazing.
And his number is.
Now, getting him to talk about anything that was there, he won't do, but he can acknowledge that he's been there.
That's good of him.
Have you seen Jim and Bob Lazar having breakfast or anything like that?
Jim Morse will have breakfast with anyone. So even if you have too much.
That's a fact.
Jim is one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet.
What do we call him, Tom?
Which specific term?
We refer to Uncle Jim as the most interesting man in the world.
Yep. He's that East guy that's the most interesting guy.
That's
Sure.
fun.
Yeah.
Hey, I just have one more because I have this opportunity to ask you guys. I need to. This 1.6 gigahertz radio frequency that's happening. Can you further explain that to me? Somebody that does not have knowledge of radio frequency. It seems like every time you do something, this frequency is occurring.
I think I just saw Thomas scoot away from the table.
This is out of my wheelhouse. This is a total Erik question.
Okay, yes, I'll address this because this is in fact something that comes up very often. And actually, I appreciate the question. It hadn't occurred to me that this might be worth talking about, but it is not the fact that we see a peak in the spectrum at or near 1.6 gigahertz. First of all, it isn't exactly 1.6 gigahertz. And we fully understand that this is a region of the electromagnetic spectrum where we do have what we would call traffic, there are things that operate in that space, things that we know about, including satellite communications and so forth. What is interesting to us is when we see what I would call badly behaved signals that don't stay in their lane. So imagine you've got a series of well-defined peaks across a range of the RF spectrum. I typically stream through the live stream a portion of that electromagnetic spectrum from 1.3 up to 1.9 gigahertz, and we see a regular pattern of signals that occupy that space. But what we're looking for are those instances where we see a peak that doesn't obey the conventional rules. It's moving around. It's not staying in its lane. That's the sort of thing that gets our attention. There's another thing that happens in that region that's worth talking about, and that is when the entire noise floor, think of it as the low-level static, if you will, when the entire noise floor jumps up as if it has been, every frequency across that domain has suddenly been emitted by something. Those are the kinds of events that interest us and, quite frankly, concern us.
What could be causing them?
I've heard Travis exclaim, "There's not a technology on Earth that can do that." I wish he were here in this conversation because I'm sure he could add a lot to this. It was, in fact, you may remember when we were exploring one of these cavities in the mesa. We call it the swimmy-headed hole. It's kind of like a cave. We were exploring that and looking at an airflow that was seeming to come out of what may be a natural duct in this opening. Travis experienced some symptoms. He talked about being kind of lightheaded, or as he says, swimmy-headed up there. And it was in that very same exercise, that same time frame, that one of the visiting members of our team, who was a geologist, noticed that on a handheld spectrum analyzer, he was seeing a very strong peak right in that range, that 1.6 gigahertz range. And I think that's what really turned our attention to this 1.6-ish gigahertz signal. And it kept coming up again and again and again in our work. So I don't want people to get the impression that we are running around with our hair on fire because we see signals in that range. We know there are signals in that range. It's the particular character of those signals that interests us. And I'll tell you, from having watched the RF spectrum all the way down into the kilohertz range and up into the 6 gigahertz and beyond, there are lots of places where I see signals that seem to be very strangely behaved, and I don't have a good explanation for that behavior.
Wild. I'm just dying to know what's causing it all. I know you guys are too. And Erik, you seem to definitely rely heavily on I'm not going to jump to any conclusions until I have full answers. But Thomas, what do you think is buried under those rocks?
Are you talking about in the mesa where we pulled the metal up the hill?
Yes. Yes.
Boy, I'll tell you right now, I've spent a lot of time focused on that area, and without going into season 4 too much, there's definitely something worth investigating there. I mean, we've got multiple data points that are pointing to that spot, so that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, we'll have to watch, and I can't wait. I don't know if you guys saw the comment earlier, but somebody came on here and said that they started studying astronomy because of you, which I think is a major tribute to the work that you're doing. And the work that you are doing goes so far beyond the show on the History Channel, but truly to so many things that are happening in the nation right now, just studying UAPs and trying to understand those bigger answers. You know, where did we come from? Where are we going? And what else is happening that we can't see? For those that watch the show, for those that don't watch the show, for those that believe, that don't believe, you know, what is one takeaway from what you have learned with your work at Skinwalker Ranch that you would want to share with people?
I'm going to go first because Erik wraps everything up so nice in a little bow. I do not want to follow him.
Deal.
I'll just say that the one takeaway that I have from the ranch is that there's obviously a lot more to this world than meets the eye. There's a lot more than we understand, and I cringe at the word paranormal. I know the team does too. You know, paranormal to me is simply science that we don't yet understand. So coming onto the ranch with somewhat of a very skeptical mind and maybe a closed mind. I think my takeaway is that there is a lot that goes on in this world that we still have yet to learn and understand.
I think a takeaway for me, I could name any number of them, but one takeaway for me is that the ranch itself and the investigation are really a stewardship. You know, we may or may not get what some will consider to be final answers, but you know, we will definitely advance the discourse. We'll move the needle and then some. And so there's the stewardship of this property and of the data. There's the stewardship of the discourse. And, you know, it's just a privilege to be able to touch the face of this problem and to work at the interface between the known and the unknown, really on the periphery of canonical science. And I'm just grateful to have the chance to do that with what, for the most part, seem to be the best wishes of those who are watching our work and now participating in it.
Yes. Wonderful. And we are so lucky to have you guys with us here and to be doing the work that you're doing and to come and share it with us.
If you're listening to us and you have not seen Unseen World of Skinwalker Ranch, you need to definitely get on the History Channel and watch it. It's addictive.
And we always leave it to Smitty to get the name of the show wrong. It's The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch.
Well, I'm sorry.
Check that one
sorry.
out.
It says the unseen thing. It says it at the top there. So,
that was the title of our
And we're
show.
hoping to have Erik and Thomas back in the near future to talk about Beyond Skinwalker Ranch.
Absolutely.
You know
I
about
apologize. I have watched the show. I promise I'm a fan of it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
As I always say, be happy, be strange, and listen to all things unexplained.
Thanks. Like, share, follow, comment, subscribe, support. What's your hot take on Travis Taylor?
I've got an exclusive for you guys if you want it about the Alaska.
We do.
Okay.
More at BigfootUFO.com.
All things unexplained.
So some of that, I think, sir, we'll save for closed session.